Hey everybody, welcome into our Wednesday webinar. Happy to have everybody here. Like you guys have seen, our focus today is on sales, acquisitions, how to get sellers under contract, how to buy land under market value, and really the sales process of that.
Yeah, welcome in, guys. Excited to be back for another Wednesday webinar here. We changed it up last week. We had a different topic. What was our topic last week, Ron?
We went over the land portal skip tracing, what you can do
Oh,
with
skip
skip tracing
tracing.
with that.
Yeah, exactly. So last week we did a little bit of skip tracing. This week it's all on acquisitions, and acquisitions make you money in real estate. That is how you make money in almost all business. It's top of funnel. It's where your sales come from. It's where your revenue, profit, everything comes from the sales. So we're going to talk about sales best practices. Sales historically in this business, Ron, has been underlooked, I think, or overlooked, I mean. And I don't think people put enough emphasis on it in general. So we try to really focus on sales and acquisitions in general to get you guys a deal that may not have been a deal if you didn't have good sales skills. So that's what we're focusing on today. Welcome in, everybody. Excited to get to it.
Did you go with the question, Dan?
I did not say the question. The question today is, since we're starting in sales, let's talk about sales. In the comments, guys, let us know where you guys feel you guys are as salespeople in your acquisitions, whether you have a land flipping business and you're talking to sellers or just sales in general. Like in real estate, you have to acquire properties. It requires skills. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. I just want to see where the room's at in terms of where you think you are with your sales game in general. What do you think about that?
I like it.
Cool. So throw that in the chat. Throw that in the chat, guys. We'll get to that. I want to see where everyone's at. Welcome in, introduce yourself, and then let us know where you guys stand on your sales game in general.
It's like emails and texts are taking a minute to get out to everyone, Dan. But yeah, people are filtering in here. Like Dan said in the chat, if you guys don't mind, this is we're talking about sales, we're talking about acquisitions, we're talking about talking to sellers, everything like that. So rate in the chat what you think you are on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of that.
Let's see what we got here. The bunch of people. Thomas West is a 9, just getting them under. I like that. James George 3. And my whole philosophy with this, Andrea, welcome in. We got a 0 star, 3 to 4, Andrea. James, just beginning. Lisa, 3. Yeah, keep throwing those in there. Where you guys stand on a scale of 1 to 10 in your sales game. We're talking about sales best practices in this. That's our focus this week. And my whole philosophy with this, if you guys are 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you can go from a 0. You can go from a 1 to a 7 or 8. You really can go from a D- to a B+ if you work on it. And you don't need to be an expert in every pillar of the business. You don't need to be an expert on every single thing, but being able to get to, a solid sales position in general will really, really help drive your business.
Absolutely.
Got a bunch of answers in here. We got a lot of 3s, a lot of 0s. Ryan Allen, welcome in. 0. Brian Fleming, 1 to 2. K5. Kamari just starting. Dominic Haynes, 1. Creekor, 6. 9. Yeah, we're all over the place. I think
everyone's got room for growth.
Yeah, everyone's got room for growth no matter what. And if you guys aren't, like, sales is pretty much the same from business to business. It does change a little bit, but in general, Ron, it's all about discovery, and we're going to talk about that. And
I really want to give this, put a couple of questions in there, guys. I want to give this a couple minutes as people are trickling in, because people get our notifications at different times, Dan. So I do want to give this another 2 minutes before we get into the sales or something. Get your questions in there. Like we talked about, if you guys are just coming in, scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, if you want, of what you rate your scales. 10 being you can't get any better. 0 being you have no sales skills, anything like that. That is our focus today. It's such a big part of this business. And I really I think it's huge that we teach it a little more, Dan.
Yeah, we have a lot of 9s in here, a lot of 1s and 0s in here. So it's cool that we have all kinds of perspectives. And if you guys feel like you're a 9, if you feel like you're a 10, if you feel like you're an 8, use the chat. Let us know what you guys think when we start going into it.
Because I've had a lot of 9s. Like we had an 18 years, Bob. Like, what do you think the main thing of sales is, Bob, that makes you over your 18 years of sales? Like what's the main pillar of sales? Because it's not like there's 100 different things or stuff with sales, like, Dan. It's pretty black and white from industry to industry. Sales is sales. But curious to see everyone who's saying 8, 9, 10, like Dan said.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea is to get you up to 7 or 8 if you're below that. And once you're 7 or 8, your confidence is higher. They can hear that on the phone. Sellers can hear, your confidence in general. And once you start to feel comfortable, it just starts to spiral and it compounds on itself, and you start getting more deals. And that's what I love about this, because we teach cold calling. We teach we don't really teach cold calling, but we push cold calling a little bit. We know it works. We teach texting and we teach mail. All three of those, you need sales. Cold calling, you obviously need the most sales. Texting, you need the second most. And mail is the most passive from a sales perspective because the sales letter does a lot of the selling. And then they call and they're motivated in general.
Exactly. Bob said listening. So basically listening to customers, prospective customers, huge. We're going to get into this real fast. If you guys don't mind hitting that like and subscribe button before we get started here, that's going to push it to someone else who could maybe be helped out with the sales aspect. They're going to be pushed this video. It's going to help them. If you guys don't mind doing that before we get started here, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys haven't already, prospect customer and their needs.
That thumbs up.
Yeah. If you guys haven't already, put it in the chat what you guys are in terms of sales skill 1 to 10. I'm going to share my screen, Dan. You can kind of take this off to start. We'll tag team this, and this is the basis of sales. If you guys are a 9 or 10, if you guys are a 9 or 10, I don't know, like you'll find some value. I'm sure it's a little different in land, but yeah, just pick and choose when to kind of bring value.
Yeah, exactly. Excited to see everyone's opinion in here and get your questions in as we're talking as well. How do you get the contracts? That's the only thing holding me back. We'll talk about
contacts.
Oh, contacts. Got it.
We use the land portal. There's a link in the description to the land portal. There's a free 14-day trial. That's how we pull data. We'll have some videos on that coming out. So with these calls, guys, all questions are great. Like we said at the beginning, we're going to have focuses for each of these calls to bring more value to you. So it's not repetitive with us going over deals. I know some of you are brand new and we still want to go over deals and stuff like that, get to your questions, but there are certain skills, there's certain things that we want you guys to learn about. Sales is a big part. And then like we already said, rate yourself 1 to 10 in the chat. A lot of you have already done that. So Dan, you want to get started on this, Ro?
Yeah, let's do it. Share
your screen. Sharing my screen. Sorry.
Nope,
I always am reading through stuff. This is what I just had here, Dan. But we will get to it. If you guys have questions about anything, put it in chat. We will get to it. But go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. So in general, in this business with sales, we approach sales a little bit differently than most because we send a lot of blind offers, but there's also texting and cold calling. Like I said, the blind offers method that we use, and it's most effective from what we've seen and most efficient. You'll get the most amount of motivated callers coming to you. So if you're doing blind offers in general, you'll have much more motivated sellers coming. It's a smaller amount of leads, but they're highly qualified leads typically. So when we're doing that, especially, one person in general, if you send 5,000 leads, someone might get 1 or 2 deals. But even with a blind offer, but sales in general and using your best tactics and techniques and sales skills can get you an extra deal. You just need 1 extra deal for this to really, really make it worth it, Ron, over like a 3 to 6 month. Like it's just about getting 1 more deal that you would not have got. And a lot of times you have sellers, Ron, that are calling in from blind offers that want to sell right away. They're far on the motivated spectrum. They're ready to go. They might not even call you. They'll just send in the purchase agreement that we send them. And those are the ones that anyone's going to get, whether you're, an extreme introvert and scared to pick up the phone, you'll get those no matter what, pretty much. So we're not going to focus on that. This is about the middle ground, right? The people who are not, on the far other end of the spectrum who don't want to sell, they're just calling to see if they can get top dollar, whatever. Yes, you can use these tactics, but generally those aren't going to be as serious as the ones in the middle. The ones that we're going for here in general, Ron, in my opinion, are the ones that are somewhere in between the highly motivated, which you're going to get no matter what. Those are the people who are just ready to go. Life circumstance came up, whatever it is. If you send a blind offer, you should get those 99 out of 100 times, in my opinion, the purchase agreement back. But those people in the middle is where you can really make or break your business. And that's really what we want to focus on.
100%.
And yeah, go on.
Yeah. So going into like the discovery, like if the thing about like motivation, guys, if you have tire kickers, if you have someone who doesn't want to be sold, we don't waste our time with those type of sellers. Our goal in this business, what we try to do at scale is buy land for 50% of market value. They have to be motivated. They have to have a circumstance. They have to have a situation that came up, and you digging into that motivation through questions is so important. And then also, what is their objection? Not everyone has an objection. Sometimes people, but we're going to get into what the common objections are that we see. And then, like you said, Dan, motivated seller and decent land. And I think that kind of sums up what we're looking for from a seller.
Yes. If you don't have, those are musts. If you do not have a motivated seller, and it's decent. So if you can have a motivated seller and it's bad land, bad real estate, you don't want the deal, whatever, scrap it at that point. But you need those two. If they're not motivated and it's not decent land, we have too many people come in and the property's worth $300,000 and they're coming in and saying, trying to assign it, for $500,000. That is not it's a motivated seller, but not motivated for this business model in general.
Yeah.
And that's what we really want to focus on. They're motivated to sell their property fast. And that's our proposition because we provide them cash. And discovering their motivation, Ron, let's talk about that a little bit because we're talking about discovery here. How do you know if someone's motivated or not?
Is that on the next slide?
No, that's on here. Discover the motivator.
Yeah, I mean, discovering their motivation, it's questions. Like you got to ask them why they want to sell. You need to ask them questions about their land. In this process, I think as you're discovering their motivation, there's a secondary benefit that you're going to build a relationship. You're going to build trust, which we're going to talk about further. But motivation is like just asking them why they want to sell the land. Ask them what the taxes are. Ask them when the last time they've been to land. So if you ask someone the last time they've been to land or when they purchased the land or when some people are going to tell you, I got this in 2005 when my uncle died. I've never been to land. I'm 1,000 miles away. I just pay taxes every year. That's a motivated seller, Dan. They have no clue value and stuff like that. So just asking questions, digging up with questions is the number one thing. And then listening.
Yeah. And if, for example, if you send a blind offer out, cause that's what we do. So say you send a blind offer out, that offer, that purchase agreement that we sent them in the mail has a number on it. And then when you call them back, they're going to have a response. And like Bob said, you just have to listen to their tone of voice. You have to listen to how they're responding. Some people will open up, Ron, and be like, yeah, Dan, I've owned this property. They'll give you all the information up front. That happens a lot. They'll start talking once you ask them one question. So, I've owned this for 20 years. I know your offer was $18,000 for my piece of land. And, that's not quite where I want to be, but that being said, I haven't been there in 10 years. I'm not planning on doing anything. I'm sick of paying taxes and I'm ready to get rid of it. That's a highly motivated seller versus someone who comes in and this is from a blind offer perspective because they call with information already. They have all the information. So we're not talking about sales pitches here. They have the pitch from the letter versus someone who calls in and says, that offer is a joke. I need 5 times more than this. That's nowhere close to where I need to be. I don't even want to sell this. This is in this is in an area that's growing and have multiple developments. They'll start to talk and ramble on. And you just really, like Bob said, it's all about listening and discovering that motivation. Like, why do they want to sell and how motivated are they to sell quick? Because that's our proposition. We get them cash quick and they need to be a good fit for that.
And I think some of our students, it happens a lot with new people, which I'm fine with. But as you get more experience in this business, you don't want to be wasting time with unmotivated sellers. It can take weeks and hours off just of you being able to do other things. Spend time on motivated sellers. Spend time building relationships with motivated sellers. That is the number one thing. And you're going to build that relationship. But let's get to it, Dan, in terms of the common objections. We really just have 2 that we see. If you guys see anything else, especially experienced land investors, let us know in the chat. Common objections that you've been hearing maybe recently. Maybe it's a certain market that you guys are seeing objections. But number one, or these are kind of 1 and 1A in my opinion. Number one, this is not a scam. Like, how does a seller's going to call up? Like, how do I know that I'm going to get paid? How do I know that I can trust you guys? How do I know X? And number 2 is I need more money. But let's start with like that trust. So everything about the scam aspect, how do they know you're not a scam? Is trust. And it starts with that conversation that we talked about to start, Dan, with motivation and asking questions, all that stuff automatically builds a little bit of trust naturally. But we can talk about some more strategic things as well, because there are going to be people who just won't trust you still.
Yeah. And if they do come with the trust, and you can categorize a lot of different objections under trust. This is one of the main ones. How do I know it's not a scam? They could also say, are you associated with the Better Business Bureau? They can ask all kinds, and it's all about just making sure you're a reliable person in business to deal with.
Yep.
And in my opinion, when someone calls and leads with that question from experience, they're motivated. And that 100%. Is one that, like, I get so excited when people have those objections because they're easy to overcome and they're highly motivated. These are the easiest objections to overcome in my mind, because trust is something you can build on the phone, like Ron said, by just being personal, asking questions, telling them a little bit about your experience, listening, following up when you say you're going to follow up. If he says to call you Friday, call him Friday when you said. Little minor things like that.
The biggest thing with building trust is doing whatever the hell you say you're going to do. Like if you say on a letter, I'm going to get you cash without in 2 weeks. And then the first time you talk to them, you say, I need 6 weeks to close. Like, okay, you're going to lose some trust there. So if you do what you are telling them to do, if you have a time that you want to call them, that you're supposed to call them, that is 100%. Sorry to interrupt you though, Dan.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And then Max said, offer a Zoom call. Justin on the podcast that we had in the other week said he goes out and meets the person and shakes their hand because he does 100%. Local deals. We don't do local
today.
Deals.
Podcast came out today on Anchor and it comes out at 6 p.m.
Right so Max is in Italy and he does that from Italy. So he put that in the comments. So he's building trust through Zoom. But one of the biggest things that's worked for me is referring them to your local title company. If you've done deals with someone in the area, like we've done a ton of deals in Georgia, and if it's your first time in a market, that's okay. You can still refer them to who you're going to use and build trust. Make sure to call the title company, discuss with them, get their phone number. It's Angie over at Bob's Title in whatever, Little Rock, Arkansas, and discuss with her the process and what you do. And then in that you plan on using them, and then they can build trust. I always like to say, like, I'm not closing this deal myself. We're going through an attorney, if it's an attorney state, or we're going through a title company, and their job is to protect you and myself. They're a third party. They're not hired by one of us. We're, whatever you say there, but you want to refer them to a title company because the fact is that you're not doing this alone, and it is through a third party that is there to protect both sides.
Yeah. And shoot, I was going to say something. And one thing you can ask them, like we do this all the time. Like you just ask them, like, what is going to make you feel comfortable to have this deal happen? Do you have an attorney? Just ask them. What's going to make you feel comfortable? I'm not hiding anything. Whatever you need, I'll provide, as long as I'm making sure I'm not getting scammed on my end, because I'm not just going to send money in the mail or something like that. I want to go through a reputable attorney, reputable title company. Just ask them though, bluntly. Like I'm not hiding anything. Whatever you want to do to make this deal comfortable for you, I'm more than happy to oblige. And that will go a long way.
They'll look you up personally too, like Ryan or Adam just said in there. They'll look your business up. So make sure to have your Facebook page or your website built out with reviews, things like that, minor things. It's a bunch of little things that add up. It's not necessarily one thing, but this is the easiest obstacle. If you guys are losing deals because they think you're a scam, you are doing something way, way, way 100%. Off. You should never be losing that. Let's go to the second one. I hope that gave you guys some perspective on that, but I need more money. This is a big one, and this is one that can drag on. But the number one thing is try to identify, get a number from them. Don't just keep giving them new offers. Try to see how far you are off. Because the fact is, they might say they need a little bit more, and you might have offered 18, but they need 50. Or sometimes, that's double the price, and that's not going to work. Or sometimes you offered $18,000 and they need 25, or they want 25, and you can meet in the middle because they have high motivation. This goes back to the first slide. How motivated are they? Why do they want to sell? How quickly do they want to sell? Do they need the cash to buy a house they're under contract in? Yep. Sometimes someone might need a cash to pay off a lien before, their house gets foreclosed, or they are going on a vacation, and everyone's motivation is different. You have to identify that motivation, engage that. Like, there are people who are going to sell to you, and when they're highly, highly motivated, you can give them less wiggle room than someone, you can hold your ground more. You can say, I offered you 18. That's what I have to stick to. And sometimes get that, but it's always a feeling, and it's always experience and reps that you need to really perfect this.
Yeah. And another thing when they're asking for more money too, is always like using defects in the land. A lot of land's not A+ land, and there's something wrong with it. Like using those type of defects, just also selling that you're paying for closing costs. You're doing this in 14 days. You're buying with cash. They don't need to pay a realtor. All these other things go into you being able to get a cheaper purchase price. And again, I think we have too many people in the community. I think we need to talk about sales more, where you offer $18,000, they ask for 30. And then like that, the number's just 30 all of a sudden. If you are not willing to have those negotiate, like it's not necessarily you have to buy it at 18, but if they're really, really motivated, you might be able to get it at 19, even though they're asking for 30. Like it's not an unrealistic thing where you can just maybe sometimes hold your ground. Sometimes when we negotiate down from our offer price. But one thing I don't think we really talked about here, Dan, is like the willingness to negotiate, which I guess it's not necessarily going into this objection thing, but you need to be able to have those tough conversations for sure.
It's a lot easier to go up than down. So in general, start low on your side in favor when you're negotiating, and then kind of work up from
100%.
there. Hold your ground first, get his reaction. Like, that's the thing, just gauging their reaction to your offer, gauging their reaction to your counter, and then going from there. Because there are people who will, if you just hold at 18, like I said, will just sell to you right away, and they just need that money right now. So it's everything with sales in general is motivation.
So if someone asks you, like, if you offer 18, let's just say 18, and then they ask for 30. If someone asks for 8, or you offered 18 and they ask for 30, and you just say, oh yeah, I can't do that. Like, then that's going to kind of, like, you want to see their reaction. Like, it's going to be different conversations, but if you just, like, if you know in your mind, like, the top I can do is 22, and they say that 30, and you're like, yeah, I'm sorry, sir, ma'am, but I just know we can't go up to that much. Then make them negotiate with themselves.
They'll tell you too. They'll be like, well,
what can you do? Do you have any more? Can you do any more than that 18? And you'll start getting them. That's what they try to do with you when they don't give you a number. But if you get them negotiating with themselves, that's a very good part of negotiation. If you can get them negotiating with themselves, coming off of their number without you giving a number and a adjusted number, it's going to work in your favor.
Yeah, and vice versa too. If someone's unmotivated, you always want to leave them off with a number also. So if they offered 18 and they want 50 and they're hard on that, you try to negotiate, they're unmotivated, all of that. You always want to say, well, this offer will call me if anything ever changes. My $18,000 offer. I love your land. I'm ready to buy it. I just can't go up to 50, and negotiate with them a little. Leave them with an offer. They might call you back in 3-6 months. Put them on your follow-up for 6 months, whatever 100%. It is. Like Max said, unmotivated sellers might be motivated right now, and then a lien pulls out on their house, or something happens, or life circumstance, or they move across the country. Whatever happens, things change all the time. So always leave them with a number.
And next week, guys, we're gonna end that there for that, so we can get some of your Q&A, answer some of your questions for this. I think that was good in terms of that. The key is being willing, and then just building that trust, asking those motivation questions to get to them. Next week, we're gonna be a little more detailed in terms of, you can use these type of questions in the cold call script that we're gonna go over next week in just conversations with them. But this is gonna be more tailored for cold call. Cold calling is the cheapest way to get into really any business, Dan. If you want to get a lead, pick up the phone and dial some phone numbers.
You'll grind. It'll be a grind, but we're going to provide you with a script next week on how those conversations look. And you can take that script and start calling landowners, start calling real estate owners, and try to get some deals up.
But again, if you guys haven't already, if you guys enjoyed that, if you guys want to be notified next week, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can also hit the notification button, hit that like button. It really helps. You guys will be pushed this next week, so you don't forget about it. But let's get into some questions, Dan. I pinned some while we were going through. Let's start with Ryan's. How do you end an ongoing conversation with an unmotivated?
I kind of just covered that, and leaving them with a number and following up in 6 months and seeing where they stand. If you're texting, you can put them in an automatic campaign where it's unmotivated and it's every 6-month text type of thing. If it's just a direct mail campaign that came out, just give them a number and kind of move on. You don't want to waste too much time with completely unmotivated, but at the same time, they might come back.
Lack of motivation is almost always a money thing. So like Dan said, give them the number that makes sense to you. Have you guys gone into cold calling or a PPC? Not PPC. We've done some cold calling. The thing about, like, we're very big on mail. We're getting into cold calling more because there's a ton of value. There's a lot of good cold calling companies out there. Mail is the most scalable. Obviously, next week we're talking about cold calling script, but mail is also very expensive to get into. We have a ton of members who start with cold calling in this business and then transition to mail as they build up some capital.
In cold calling, you can categorize it into two. You're outsourcing it with a cold calling service, or you're doing it yourself. So outsourcing is obviously more expensive, and doing it yourself, it takes a lot of money. James here from Canada. Can I do this from Canada? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, you can do this anywhere in the world. We have people in Australia, like we said. Max here. Max can say Max is in Italy. People all over the world are doing this. You can do this from anywhere.
Yep, exactly. That's MLM Bros. That's the guy in the comments. Max is over in Italy right now. Question about closing. Who pays the closing cost, buyer or seller? And do we use the title company for every time we buy?
It depends. Like, it really, so if you're buying a property, when we're buying a property, we tell the seller we're going to take care of all your closing costs. If there's any outstanding liens or outstanding 3, 5, 10 years of back taxes, that's going to be part of the negotiation for sure. But if it's a couple $100 of taxes for the last 12 months, we'll take care of their closing costs. We really want the offer that we give them to be what they get in their bank account. Again, that's kind of the transparency fact that we try to provide. And just this is our offer price. This is what you'll get on closing day.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if there's anything else. When exactly will the land portal tutorial come out? Those videos are, I mean, we just need to upload them to the land portal. They'll be, so on the land portal at the top, is it there, Dan, for them to see tutorials? It's just not filled out yet.
Yeah, we got to fill that out. We have the videos. It's going to be any
videos are recorded and uploaded to our internal. We just need to upload them.
It should be within the next 24 hours.
We'll keep you guys updated though on that. Build the trust. Yeah, exactly. This is really good, guys. If you guys, this business is a sales business. It's a marketing and sales business. I think, Dan, you need to be willing to talk to people. You don't need to be the best salesperson in the world. Our brother who does this business, and runs his own land flipping business, like he started at, what do you think, a C minus salesperson, Dan?
Yeah, from what he was saying, I mean, I personally never heard him on the phone or anything, but he was saying he was he just wasn't comfortable with those. And he even outsourced it. And outsourcing sales is one of the hardest positions to outsource, in my opinion. And he outsourced it. That didn't work out. So he's like, all right, let's strap on the boots. Let's learn how to do some sales. Let's study it. Let's get comfortable. It's all about reps. Get the reps, listen. Like Bob said, you got to listen to other people, understand their motivation, and just get comfortable with those uncomfortable conversations.
If my initial, how do I get the contracts? We offer contracts in our programs. We don't have anything public, I don't believe, in terms of contracts. Star. If my initial revenue goal is $20K per month, what is a solid monthly budget for mailers? I mean, $20,000 a month is one deal a month, which is anywhere from 2 to 2,500 mailers, which is going to be $3,000 or so.
Yeah, for mailers. If your cold calling service is $2,500 a month, roughly, and if you're sending out text, it's about $500 a month plus your data cost and all that. So maybe $1,500 a month. So anywhere, depending on where and if you're cold calling yourself, obviously much cheaper. It's just going to cost you a lot of time. That's the thing. Like if you guys start with a lower budget, start with potentially cold calling and just dial and get your first deal, make $25,000 off your first deal, and then put it into direct mail campaigns, things like that.
At scale, the numbers typically look like what you spend on mail is you'll 8 to 12x. That will be your gross profits. Essentially, if you spend $3,000 on mail, it's going to be 24 8 to, did I say 12, 8 to 30 or 24 to $36,000 of gross profit at scale. It's not saying every month you're going to do that. If you send $3,000 a mail at scale, we're seeing 8 to 12x in terms of your mail spend. Yeah. How do you get the contracts? Do I need an LLC to start? No, we have a lot of people. You can always do this individually to start and create an LLC. You just want to make sure you sort your expenses, Dan. Make sure you understand so you can, even if you're not an LLC, you can still write off your expenses at the end of the year that are going towards this business.
Yeah, once you actually are serious about it, you're going in full force. There's no reason not to get it. It's just from a legal standpoint, and to just organize everything. But there's no reason like you can't do it without an LLC. So if that's holding you back, don't let that hold it back. Send your first mail, get a couple of deals, then file for an LLC.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we went through all of the questions, Dan. Again, if you guys haven't, hit subscribe. We also have a video coming out in 2 minutes at 6 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, the Apke Brothers YouTube channel. It's an interview with one of our students. And the cool thing about his story, we can actually give a little prequel to it, Dan. Cool thing about Justin's story, first 6 months of this business, he struggled. Like he did one deal. I think he made $17,000 on that deal. Probably broke even after mail cost. The last 6 months, he fought through those 6 months. Really, really cool story. Last 6 months, he's made $290,000, I believe, up to
he
this
got
point.
One deal until October 29th or something.
He's done 8 or 10 since then.
Yeah. So all his 280,000 profit has pretty much come from the last 4 or 5 months.
Exactly. We get our leads. But Justin's interview is coming out in a minute, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Where do you get your leads? The land portal. There is a link in the...
It's the top link in the description, thelandportal.com.
I saw one question earlier that I missed, Dan, that I want to get to real fast. Do you only buy cash, or are you offering seller finance on any of the deals? We are typically buying cash. Bigger deals, you can do seller financing.
Yeah.
We have a website template that we give out with most of our programs, James. If you are interested in one of our programs right now, all of our programs are closed. Our next one is starting April 19th.
Yeah, but if you're not in there, do you need a website? You don't need it. You can create a Facebook page. Honestly,
Facebook page,
has worked pretty well. But getting a website eventually is always a good. That going back to that trust with sellers, like getting a website is always a beneficial thing.
Awesome. But we got to get to our members call, guys, at 6 p.m., which is right now. Other than that, if you guys need anything, please reach out to us. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.